Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering. A fired inspector general decided she wanted to defy Trump. She was fired on a Friday night and would not leave her office on Monday. So security had to escort her out, physically removing her from the building. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. The Trump administration fired 17 inspectors general in a single night, including the USDA's longtime internal watchdog, Phyllis Fong. But something went wrong. Fong refused to comply with the termination, citing legal violations, and remained in her office until security escorted her out. She had a point. She had a point that a law was violated, removing her without giving Congress notice and reasons why they wanted her removed. It's still within the executive branch to be able to remove inspectors general. The president can do that anytime that he likes. But there was a federal law passed, and it's supposed to control what the president can and can't do with respect to removing inspectors general. However, it's not constitutional. You can pass as many laws as you want, trying to restrict the president's authority to remove any employee of the executive branch, and it's still not going to be constitutional. Senator Tom Cotton, in particular, backs Trump up on this one, but he's got plenty of backup for this. We also know that there's no way to prosecute a sitting president. And we also know from the Supreme Court's decision, thanks to all the cases brought against Trump, that he's allowed to use his executive authority beyond any kind of establishment of a claim of abuse of power. There is no abuse of power when you are the executive branch. And the president himself is actually the executive branch. The White House explained the firings were necessary to remove rogue partisan bureaucrats and install officials who would uphold the rule of law. Phyllis Fong's office had been involved in major investigations, including Elon Musk's Neuralink, food safety audits, and animal welfare violations. She was also involved in calling for the destruction of millions upon millions of chickens, which may have something to do with the incredibly high price for eggs. The USDA is currently facing major challenges, including bird flu outbreaks and rising food prices, which critics say should be the administration's priority. And as you can tell, that's why they need to get rid of this lady. Trump defended the mass firings, calling them a common practice when a new administration takes over. Senator Macy Hirono, who we all care about, slammed the move, accusing Trump of prioritizing political loyalty over addressing real agricultural crises. It's like day after day, Trump closes down one avenue after another for the federal government through one agency or another to mess up the country. Legal experts argue the findings may have violated federal law, prompting the Council of the Inspectors General to issue a warning to the White House. They have no authority. They may as well call themselves the Jedi Ninja Council. They have no authority over the White House, over the president, over the executive branch. Absolutely none. The incident has reignited fears that Trump's second term will see an even more aggressive push against government oversight and accountability. Coming from Reuters exclusive, USDA Inspector General escorted out of her office after defying the White House. Employees of the federal government really do have this massive delusional streak. They feel like they have authority they just do not have. All of their authority to represent the United States comes from the executive branch. And in some cases, these people aren't even trying to be difficult as much as they just are so far gone they don't understand that you work for the federal government. There's only one president that was elected by the people of the country, giving legitimacy to that president. There's no special legitimacy at the USDA where you can do whatever you want because you think you're doing it for a good reason. You all have to do it under the authority of the executive branch, and ultimately under the authority of the president and whoever his subordinates are. That's the way this works, and they're just starting to find that out. Security agents escorted the Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Agriculture out of her office on Monday after she refused to comply with her firing by the Trump administration, according to sources. Phyllis Fong, a 22-year veteran of the department, had earlier told colleagues that she intended to stay after the White House terminated her on Friday, saying that she didn't believe the administration had followed proper protocols, according to their sources. And how does that really work? So if you're in a position in the government and you decide, well, I've been told something and it's from a superior, but I don't think I'm going to respect that because I don't like how they told me. And I think I have some legal advice here that tells me, well, maybe they did something that they're not allowed to do. You really think that gives they have like how many? 2 million employees at the federal government. Do they really have the authority to say, no, you know something? We're going to just do what we think we want to do. And if you don't like it, you can send your security forces after us. Sure, if something happened and it's not fair and it's not legal, you can always take that claim and bring it to civil court, try to bring it to criminal court if you even want to. Bring it anywhere you want to bring it. But you can't fight the authority of the federal government just because you don't like how things went down. Not physically in your office. You can fight it in court. That's your recourse. And that's the problem. They're not going to still be in control of the government and being able to push the levers they want to push to control the federal government. Trump's going to control the federal government. He was elected to control the federal government. Resisting by force, even if you're Phyllis Fong, is not going to work. In an email to colleagues on Saturday, reviewed by Reuters, so they saw the email, she said the independent counsel, the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, quote, has taken the position that these termination notices do not comply with the requirements set out in law and therefore are not effective at this time. I have seen that letter. It's okay. It's fine for them to take that position. But with you and what army, Phyllis? Fong declined to comment, and the Office of the Inspector General did not respond to multiple requests for comment. A USDA spokesperson said Fong left the office on Monday on her own accord, so they didn't have to drag her out of her office, supposedly. Sure, we really believe that. Here's what they said. Quote, she was accompanied by 2 friends who she paused to take selfies with on her way out. Security officials did not play any role in her departure, according to the spokesperson. I understand not wanting to embarrass her, and Trump's people are not necessarily looking to embarrass her, but realistically, she was escorted out by 2 people. She could have taken selfies with them. She didn't leave on her own. But one way or another, she was leaving that office. The USDA Inspector General has a broad mandate pursuing consumer food safety, audits and investigations of the Agriculture Department, as well as violations of animal welfare laws. The USDA has been at the heart of concerns about bird flu, which has spread among cattle and chickens and killed a person in Louisiana. And the more chickens they destroy, the more expensive eggs are going to be. Was Fong exaggerating the problem? Was she doing this to somehow interfere with the government? I have no idea. But the next Inspector General will start all over again with this problem, I'm sure. In 2022, the Inspector General's office launched an investigation of Elon Musk's brain implant startup Neuralink, which remains ongoing according to sources. In recent years, the office has also taken on animal abuse of dog breeders for research labs and the listeria outbreak at Boar's Head, among other issues. And some of that is legitimate work, and that's what they ought to be focusing on, probably not targeting Elon Musk. Fong was among the 17 federal watchdogs fired by Trump on Friday in what critics describe as a Friday night purge. Speaking to reporters afterwards aboard Air Force One, Trump defended the move, saying, quote, it's a very common thing to do. He did not say who would be installed in the vacant posts. Their immediate deputies are most likely to be the ones that rise up. There is a whole order of operations of sorts of if the boss is fired or the boss leaves for one reason or another, there's an immediate deputy that takes over. Can those deputies be fired? Absolutely, they can be fired. The dismissals, handed out less than a week after Trump took office for his second term, appeared to violate federal law. The Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency said in a letter to the White House on Friday. Fong served as the first chairperson of CIGIE from 2008 to 2014, according to her biography on USDA's website. In response to the Reuters story, Senator Mazie Hirono had this to say, quote, egg prices are soaring. Bird flu is out of control. USDA should be fixing this problem. Instead, Trump is stacking the federal government with yes men. He doesn't care about your grocery prices, she wrote on X. Trump probably cares very deeply about grocery prices. It's an important indicator of his success. If Trump's advisors, who he trusts, has told him she seems to be pushing this bird flu thing a little too hard and she's like killing all the chickens and we're not going to have any eggs and prices have no chance of going down, and he has some scientific corroboration for that, that could explain why she's one of the people who were fired. What all this firing really comes down to, all this restructuring of the federal government, is who's going to control the federal government, which is an incredibly huge, powerful force in every American's life. Who's going to control the federal government? Will it be the bureaucrats, or will it be a person who the American people elected to control the federal government? From the Washington Post, Trump defends ousting at least 15 independent inspectors general in late-night purge. The dismissals appear to violate a federal law, which requires Congress to receive 30 days' notice of any intent to fire a Senate-confirmed inspector general. I've seen this story covered in a number of places by now. It's around 17 or 18 people that look like they were fired. Not the Inspector General of the Department of Justice. That's Michael Horowitz. He's been left in place. The Washington Post does a good deep dive here. It kind of tells you what the thinking is on all sides. President Donald Trump on Saturday night defended his removal of a slew of inspectors general Friday night as lawmakers in both parties raised concerns about the late-night purge and questioned the decision that appeared to violate federal law. Quote, "It's a very common thing to do," Trump claimed to reporters on Air Force One. "I don't know them," he said, even though many of those fired were people he appointed through his first term. Quote, "But some people thought that some were unfair or some were not doing their job. It's a very standard thing to do." The White House removed the inspectors general of nearly every cabinet-level agency in an unprecedented purge that could clear the way for Trump to install loyalists in the crucial role of identifying fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. The inspectors general were notified late Friday by emails from the White House personal director Sergio Gore that, quote, "due to changing priorities, they'd been terminated immediately, according to people familiar with the actions, who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the private messages. The watchdogs at Homeland Security and Justice were the only cabinet-level inspectors general spared." The dismissals appeared to violate federal law, which require Congress to receive 30 days' notice of any intent to fire a Senate-confirmed inspectors general. The legal uncertainty could create awkward encounters on Monday. Well, it's not that awkward. They're all out now. Where several watchdogs who were told they were fired plan to show up to their offices to work anyway. Trump said he intended to install new people in the roles, but said they would have to have some independence. Quote, "They're not my people," he said, of those he would install. "I don't know anybody that would do that, but we'll put people in there that will be very good." The removals were one of the many first-week actions that have shown Trump's willingness to purge the federal government of dozens of leaders, both career officials and those who are politically appointed. Anyone he views as disloyal to his agenda is going to go. And Washington still has a hard time understanding this, but Trump's agenda is the people's agenda. That's why he was elected. Oversight of the government's largest agencies was left in limbo on Saturday as the Senate confirmed watchdogs at the Departments of Defense, State, Transportation, Labor, Health and Human Services, Veterans Affairs, Housing and Urban Development, Interior, Energy, Commerce, Treasury and Agriculture, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency, Small Business Administration, and the Social Security Administration were fired. Quote, "It's a widespread massacre," one of the fired watchdogs said. "Whoever Trump puts in now will be viewed as loyalists, and that undermines the entire system." And that's true. Whoever Trump puts in will be viewed as someone who's probably loyal to Trump, probably loyal to the White House and the executive branch overall and the people of America. The great thing is they have their own authority at the Inspectors General office. They can investigate like the FBI. And they don't really need the permission of anyone in the departments to conduct an investigation. That's why they're independent. Some Republicans expressed concern and requested an explanation from the White House, while Democrats were outraged. The top Democrats from nearly 24 House committees signed a joint letter to Trump on Saturday afternoon defending the independence of the federal watchdogs and pointing out that removing them without notifying Congress violates the law. Quote, "Firing inspectors general without due cause is antithetical to good government, undermines the proper stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and degrades the federal government's ability to function effectively and efficiently." According to their letter, "We urge you to withdraw your unlawful action and comply with your obligations to the American people." It was unclear who the Trump administration would install to replace the ousted watchdogs. Any inspector general must be replaced in an acting role by someone who has already been confirmed by the Senate or already served in the watchdog community. Congress amended the law after Trump installed political loyalists to replace some of the 5 watchdogs he fired in quick succession in his first term. When this is tested in court, it goes without question that the executive branch is run by the president. He gets to decide whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, whoever the president is, they get to decide. Lawmakers and the judicial branch don't have control over the executive branch. They really don't. Many of those fired were Republicans or Trump appointees from his first term, which stunned the watchdog community. But one prominent Democratic appointee survived. Michael Horowitz at the Justice Department, an appointee of President Barack Obama, who had issued reports critical of both the Biden administration and Trump's first administration. As the Justice Department enters a highly politicized term under a president who has been clear he wants to seek retribution against prosecutors who led investigations into his conduct, Horowitz's oversight role will be more visible than ever. Trump defended Horowitz, praising a 2018 report he'd done in which he was critical of FBI Director James Comey and other leaders over their 2016 investigation into the Trump campaign, even as Horowitz also said the FBI was justified in opening the investigation. Quote, Michael Horowitz, we're keeping, Trump said on Saturday. Quote, I thought his report on Comey was incredible, actually. Such an accurate, well-done report. Trump also left in place Joseph Kafari Jr., the embattled inspector at the Department of Homeland Security, the government's third-largest agency. A Trump appointee, Kafari, was under investigation for years by an independent panel of watchdogs, which found in October that he misled the Senate during his nomination process and committed other misconduct during his 5 years in office. Kafari's oversight of Trump's second-term crackdown on undocumented immigration, illegal aliens, is likely to come under intense scrutiny. The chairman of the Council of Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency challenged the White House's action on Friday. Quote, I recommend that you reach out to the White House counsel to discuss your intended course of action. At this point, we do not believe the actions taken are legally sufficient to dismiss presidentially appointed Senate-confirmed Inspectors General, wrote Hannibal Mike Ware, Inspector General of the Small Business Administration and Acting Inspector General at the Social Security Administration. Mike Ware, who was among those fired, cited a law Congress approved in 2022 that requires the White House to inform them 30 days before removing Inspectors General and to provide a substantial rationale for the decision. The emails informing the watchdogs of the dismissals rippled across federal agencies. Another fired Inspector General learned of his ouster by reading the email for the first time while on the phone with a Washington Post reporter who had called to ask about it. The person reacted by saying the new administration does not want anyone in this role who is going to be independent. Quote, IGs have done exactly what the president says he wants, to fight fraud, waste, and abuse, and make the government more effective, the person added. Firing this many of us makes no sense. It's counter to those goals. Some inspectors general are presidential appointees, while others are designated by the heads of their agencies. They serve indefinite terms and typically span administrations to insulate them from shifts in political winds. A president can remove them, but must notify both chambers of Congress in advance. Quote, it's a post of independent watchdogs in the middle of the night, Elizabeth Warren said Friday in a post on social media. Inspectors general are charged with rooting out government waste, fraud, abuse, and preventing misconduct. President Trump is dismantling checks on his power and paving the way for widespread corruption. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer called Trump's action a chilling purge. Quote, these firings are Donald Trump's way of telling us he's terrified of accountability and is hostile to facts and transparency, according to Schumer. At least one congressional Republican was unmoved by the decision to remove the officials. Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso told Fox News on Saturday, sometimes inspector generals don't do the job that they're supposed to do. Some of them deserve to be fired. Some Republicans have been outspoken defenders of the independence of inspectors general, including Senator Chuck Grassley. In a statement on Saturday, Grassley said, quote, there may be a good reason the IGs were fired. We need to know if that's so. I'd like further explanation from President Trump. Regardless, the 30-day detailed notice of removal that the law demands was not provided to Congress. The 5 watchdogs Trump ousted in 2020 started with Michael Atkinson, the Intelligence Community Inspector General who alerted Congress to the whistleblower complaint that led to Trump's first impeachment. Trump had appointed Atkinson. The president also removed the State Department's chief watchdog, who had begun investigating alleged misconduct by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Many lawmakers at the time said they believed the watchdogs were fired simply because of their involvement in investigations that cast the first Trump administration in a negative light. But Friday's dismissals befuddled and stunned the watchdog community, as many of those let go had done hard-hitting investigations of Biden administration operations. For example, Michael Missel, the Inspector General at Veterans Affairs, oversaw multiple investigations of how the Biden administration handled the agency's troubled effort to build a massive electronic health record system for veterans' medical information. Among other conclusions, the report showed that veterans have been put at risk as their prescriptions were lost in the system. The project has been paused for months. Missile also issued an embarrassing investigation last May of $11 million in bonuses the VA had handed out to more than 180 senior executives, with several taking home more than $100,000. The bonuses came from funds that Congress earmarked to recruit and keep staff needed to process billions of dollars in new veterans' benefits. Mark Greenblatt, a Trump appointee at the Interior Department who was fired on Friday, released a lengthy investigation in 2021, concluding that when the U.S. Park Police led law enforcement officers into a crowd of mostly peaceful protesters outside Lafayette Square during the first Trump administration, they did so as part of a plan made earlier to build a fence around the park to protect officers, not to facilitate the visit minutes later by the president to a nearby church. A church that those peaceful protesters set on fire. But never mind that part. That report was largely viewed as exonerating Trump, who came under heavy criticism after the incident. At the time, Trump praised Greenblatt's report in a tweet and thanked him, although not by name. Before the firings, there were more than 70 inspectors general across the federal government, some with large staffs numbering in the thousands. 32 required Senate confirmation. The remaining federal watchdogs now face the vexing decision of whether to soften their oversight of the new administration or pledge to their staff that they will not back down on tough investigations, all at the risk of being fired. The news of the dismissals left some staff employees in the Inspector General community, quote, absolutely shocked, said a senior executive in one office. Quote, this is totally unprecedented. It's what we were fearing. There was noise during the transition about him doing this and some statements made during the campaign. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.